Oh, hello. Hello. Hi. Hello. And welcome to Leggs. This is where we navigate the space between movement and meaning, exploring how physical activity fuels our drive and our connection and our ability to keep pushing forward, all amounting to that little thing we like to call being a little less lonely. I'm your host, as always, Will. And today, we're going to tap back into energy and that drive that keeps us pushing forward. Now, special episode today. Today, we're talking with Luke Henshaw. He's a sonic architect, beat manipulator, and genre-bending powerhouse. Luke has spent most of his career at the crossroads of punk, hip-hop, industrial, and electronic music, creating soundscapes, really, that challenge convention and demand movement. As half of Planet B with Justin Pearson, our last Energgggy feature, he blends this raw, sort of confrontational energy with super layered avant-garde production styles, and his work with Satanic Planet pushes into experimental realms, while collaborations with legends like Kool Keith and his work on the Locust remixes really proves his ability to evolve, adapt, and defy sort of all of our expectations. But, it's not just about sound. Luke is also a relentless creator. He's a producer, a live performer, DJ, an audio storyteller. He just refuses to stand still. And actually, special treat, he's a runner too. So today we're going to be talking about how his work sort of reshapes and redefines who he is, what his life in the studio is like, how he finds his running spots, what running means to him, and, just sort of that constantly moving forward attitude that we're trying to capture here on Energgggy. So sit back. We're going to talk about how he keeps evolving, what fuels his need to keep pushing sound and creativity to new levels, and what you can take away from this never-stopping, always moving dude. This is Energgggy with Luke Henshaw. All right. We are here with episode number 2 of Energgggy by Leggs. Today we have got Luke Henshaw with us. Luke, I'm going to pass you the mic and let you give us an introduction on who you are.
Luke, I'm from Planet B, Satanic Planet. Sonido de la Frontera are pretty much my main projects among various other projects. And I run a studio over here at Penguin Studios in San Diego.
All right. So name of the game, why we're here today. My first question is really just about sort of Energgggy in general, I guess. Looking at your catalog of music and just kind of taking all that into consideration, you create definitely a wide spectrum of music. And I assume that's sort of meeting or reaching people from a lot of different walks of life. I guess the first question really is just walk me through your process of finding your inspiration to creating these different sounds.
I think the sounds themselves are pretty much the motivation and inspiration for me. I just like experimenting and discovering new sounds. And once I find a sound, and that is kind of like the beginning of the process, so whether it be for this project or that project, sometimes I find a sound and I, stop what I'm doing. Say if I'm recording something with Satanic Planet and I find a sound for like Sonido, I'll stop what I'm doing and be like, oh, I got to use this and, kind of bounce. So I think the sounds themselves are really the inspiration.
How do you kind of then, I guess, keep all the, it's kind of just a tangent question, but how do you keep all of the ideas sort of focused? If you're playing with Satanic Planet and have to switch gears to a completely different type of project, what's sort of the, how do you keep kind of things back? How do you shift back into Satanic Planet mode and then also remember the other mode that you found yourself in?
I really don't know exactly, but you just kind of like shifting gears, but like kind of just transition back and kind of like a lot of times I'll give it a breather, or going back to like if I'm working on something with Satanic Planet and it's not working, I like to bounce the tracks, and especially when I go run, I'll just listen to it over and over in my headphones and just trying to like develop ideas. A lot of my ideas are actually developed while I'm running.
I want to dig into that. We're going to get into that in 1 second. Because after all, Legs is kind of, I started it as a running podcast or running sort of community journal. It's
Yeah.
morphed into, I don't know what its current state. I think I just call it a repository of unpopular thoughts at this moment in time. So still kind of figuring out its own legs. But so I guess kind of on that a little bit, the mental and sort of physical stamina to continue the creation. There doesn't seem to be any like slowing down right now. What's your take on that? Like, where do you find your energy? How do you continue to keep the high level of output for yourself?
Love, just the love of doing it, pretty much. There's times when you like I'll hit a wall or something and it's just kind of like an easy break. But to be honest, I can be a very angry person when I'm not in the studio, and it shows. So it's just wanting to keep coming back and trying something different, and just the love of the studio. I pretty much have lived in studios my whole life. So
I guess kind of on the flip side of that, that's the love and the passion to do it and to keep yourself sane and happy, keeps you moving. On the flip side, what about the audiences? So you're creating this music, these sounds, these kind of experiences for audiences across the board. What do you hope they take away from what they hear from you?
to be honest, I really don't think about that, or I haven't. The only project, Sonido de la Frontera, is that's probably the only project that I've thought of that in terms of just when we first started, because it's really heavy rhythm based. And when we started that project, it got a lot of really good reaction on the dance floor. So in going into that, it's just I rely on the audience's reaction and making some of that stuff. With Planet B and Satanic Planet, I can give a shit what the audience thinks. I'm just happy that they've taken it in so well. But a lot of it is a lot of people don't understand what it is at the moment, and I'm sure they will get it probably when I'm dead. But at the moment, only Sony though do I really focus on the audience, because it's
Yeah.
really dance based. And
The new Planet B, I was listening to it last night, or the newest Planet B is it's electrifying, I guess, for lack of a better word. I'm digging it. So it's been on my I actually put it on a running playlist, and that's what I was running to before this to kind of hype myself up for our chat today.
right.
And now getting into running, I'd love to know a little bit more about why. So when I first talked to Justin, he was like, "Dude, you got to talk to Luke. He's this crazy dude I know that runs 10 miles a day. I don't get it, but you know, you got to talk to him anyway." So I would love to know just sort of like your inspiration for running, and then we can talk about the why and why we keep going and doing it.
hmm it's the same. It's for me, the running is like me time, and it's just a way to unwind and just kind of just focus on myself and just connect with my body, and just it's just going. And I mean, it's just the same thing with music. I love it, and I have to run. In the beginning, it was a kind of like, hey, you need to get into shape. You're not in the best health, so I could barely run down one block without having to stop. And then soon enough, it became 2 blocks, and then I was able to run around the block. And then now, I can run, anywhere from like 60 to 90 minutes a day.
Nice. What's your routine? What's a typical run look like for you?
Depending on where I'm at, I can travel a lot, but I try to do at least 8 miles a day. And depending on like if I'm here at the studio, a lot of that is flat, so I can focus more on speed and kind of just work on a lot of that. And since it's flat, I can work on a lot of like breath work that I've been learning about. There's a really good book, Oxygen Advantage, that teaches you like endurance and breathing and stuff like that. If I go to a place with more hills, um, I still will get the time, but it's just more of a workout kind of thing. And then, like being here in San Diego, I drive down to the beach a lot and, run along the bay and stuff like that. So, and I always have a pair of running shoes and shorts in the car. So if I'm driving and I see a spot that I like, I'll just pull over and just start running.
That's great. That's like old skate culture, right?
Yeah.
Like where like it was just you always had your board in your car because you never know when you'd find a four set or a curb or something like that.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Um, you talked about me time and why that's so important, or at least why running brings out the me time in you. What's sort of the why is me time important for you?
It's just a way just to kind of just, connect with myself and just unwind and kind of like get away from the studio. But at the same time, when I'm running, I'm like developing musical ideas.
Mhm.
So I'm still kind of craving getting back into the studio.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to explain. I mean, I know when yeah, like you're a runner, it's just it's just that feeling. There's this like a natural high in the body that you crave and you want to get up and run. That's like one of the first things I think about when I wake up is like, where am I going to go run?
Nice.
You
That's
know?
great. Yeah, totally. No, I completely agree with that sentiment. And those days I'm not able to. Like yesterday, I spent 6.5 hours in a car and immediately had to come back and do dad duty and all that good stuff. So I was like, I didn't get a chance to get out, but I went crazy a little bit in my head to not have that release. So that's why I snuck out this morning before this. One thing I want to start to kind of correlate. And I was talking with Justin a little bit about this, but I grew up in sort of the I guess the punk music scene, specifically like the music scene. I wouldn't say I was necessarily on like the ideology side of things, but one thing I'm noticing now is this kind of proliferation of these communities, these run clubs, this run culture that like on the surface, kind of just looks like these big gatherings. But then once you understand the nuances to them a little bit more, they've become these sort of bastions for almost these outsiders. So I think during COVID, we saw this really big rise in sort of what I'm calling the Renaissance runner. And it's people that they might have felt disenfranchised by, some other sport or not sure what to do with their lives or needed an alternative to drinking or, something like that to kind of like get back into it. And they've kind of found these like weird groups together. And I'm seeing it sort of similar to, I don't know, I guess kind of like how the punk communities used to come together, right? And I think still do in a lot of ways. Um, but I'd love to know sort of your opinions on this like rise of this kind of culture and people finding each other through these niche sort of I wouldn't say beliefs, but niche activities, niche interests. So like the parallels potentially we could draw between sort of that punk culture and how people come together and find each other through physical activity. What do you think about that?
Um, well, like one is, um, I'm not very, I do love it. And I did see the rise, especially during COVID. And I love the fact, like, I can just walk outside of the studio and just hang out in the corner and within 2 minutes I can see at least three or four runners and I love it and I admire a lot of the runners around here and I'm always like checking it, I'm always like checking out people's form or their steps or if I'm close enough I can analyze like their breathing and just seeing how they're doing their stuff and sometimes I try it but I never really run with anybody, so I'm not really a part of like the run community. I do
Hmm.
see a couple run clubs, but as far as um, like the parallels between like the punk music scene and the punk runners, I like it's kind of like hand in hand, and like I admire it, and I'm all for it. I'm all for it. Like especially with them, it like during COVID, they could have all met and just got shit faced drunk every single day, and the fact that they decided to just say, "Oh fuck it, let's run,"
Yeah.
is it's amazing to me. I mean, don't get me wrong, I'll get shit faced drunk too, but I make sure I get my run in first.
Yeah. Yeah. No. I mean, I appreciate the honesty there. And yeah, that's a good point. I think it's been interesting to see this rise, and I don't know what it's completely about. I think that there's just it's like a new day of reckoning or something, because there's
Yeah.
been a lot of people that are just they've turned to this, they've turned to something. There's also been a rise of a lot of new brands that have come up that have
Uh,
catered to that and really blown up because of, I think, chicken and egg catch 22 kind of thing.
yeah. I
Okay.
love seeing it sometimes. Sorry to cut, but there's
No,
time.
no.
I love even like when I see, and it's kind of weird, but when I see like a lot of like I'll check out a lot of like female runners because they're a lot like lighter, and I like to see the bounce, But sometimes it's like, oh, what are you looking at, creep? And I'm like, no, it's nothing like sexual. I'm just like checking out your running form, and it's just like I'm admiring it, or you're just running across the street with somebody, and just like it's a great feeling to
Yeah.
me. I love the run community, but I don't like running with anybody. I like to run by myself.
Why is that?
Just but again, it goes back to just like the me time,
Yeah.
and I've tried it before, and it's just like like it's like I can hang out with you later,
Yeah.
but yeah, I just like just the alone time, the isolation, and just like connecting with myself.
Yeah, totally. I get that. I very much get that. I quit a club last year, and have really taken solace in just kind of what I
Mhm.
discover about things and myself and all that on my solo runs. And kind of it takes a little bit of pressure off too. Like you can go do your own thing. Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, cut a corner, you see a street that you've never ran down. I love just running in one direction and just kind of just getting lost.
I guess that I'm curious too about the correlation between that and your musical projects. So me time allows you, we can kind of like make a transitive property kind of statement here.
Mhm.
Runtime allows you to become a better person, allows you to become a productive member of your community. So if you're better to yourself, you're better for other people,
Mhm.
kind of thing. So how does that I guess, translate into your musical prowess? Like, do you see a correlation between you as a solo runner taking that me time and then being able to create better things, better music?
I mean, it helps with the creativity process of it. It's kind of weird, and like I don't like um want to sound like a dick or anything like that, but I really don't like I love music, but sometimes like I don't think I've ever really like found a purpose of it other than just like of how I do it, or maybe I do, I just don't know it.
Hmm.
So in terms of like Justin and I on our podcast, there's a lot of musicians that have this connection to like life, and like have a purpose, and like and music, like, oh, they found music and music has saved them, or this is this or that. And me, it's just something that I don't know. It's like there's no, I don't have any reason in doing so. But going back to like the running and all of that stuff, it kind of helps like with the creative process
Hmm.
with it. And it's just like it's like I said, like finding a street that I've never ran down. It's like that's how I am very like musically, and wanting to experiment with a new sound. And it's just the moment I turn all the equipment on, I just go.
Why is that? I mean, why is that purpose for creating music? Do you think it's important to have it, or like you can just kind of do whatever, right?
Yeah, I think if you I don't want, speaking for myself, I don't want to speak for others, because I know when people do have a purpose, they hold on to it, and it has a lot of value and meaning to them. But
Hmm.
to me, I think it's better to not have a purpose, because then you're not limited to anything. You don't have boundaries. And like I said, you can just go with it.
It's almost like if you don't have, you're freeing yourself from the bridles and of almost expectation at that point too,
Mhm.
because you don't have to limit yourself to just one belief, one ideology, one anything. You're just like, I'm here to create and let's see what happens kind of thing. Yeah.
If I was a lyricist, then that might kind of change because then you have to like with words, you definitely have to connect with the listener in some certain way, you know.
Mhm.
But with sound, it's all interpretation, you know.
Yeah, that's great. So in terms of the different music scenes and projects you've been a part of, how has that shaped your sense of community?
I mean, it's broadened a lot of it, and the connection of especially like working with Justin. You kind of like or going like to like Sonido, you know, playing, and everybody's having a good time. And we leave the stage and everybody's really like talkative and chatting. And like, I love the fact that like music, it does bring people together, you know, and it does, you know, like it's like it's having a good time, you know. And then it's widened the community, especially going back to like working with Justin, because he's introduced me to so many fucking rad people and so many people that like I admired and I would not have met, you know, without him, you
Mhm.
know. So the community has widened, you know, and you know, just kind of just feeding off different ideas and like working with a lot of the people that he's introduced me to has been like it's been really awesome.
Yeah, that's cool. He definitely seems like a connector in terms of sort of the freshness. So, I think one thing that we need to take into consideration just as humans is never getting too comfortable with something and trying to keep things kind of fresh and I don't know, moving forward, I guess. What's your take on sort of repetition and how do you keep things fresh and how do you kind of keep reinventing?
I love but like the idea that I have so many different projects, but when I finish one, I like to just go in the complete opposite direction.
What's
It go,
that?
I like to just go with something totally different. Um, so, and I think that's how I keep it fresh and keep it just it's moving because by the time I finish something, I'm exhausted with it, you know, or like by the time, like you said, you listened to that Planet B album this morning, by the time I get it in my hands in physical form, I I don't even listen to it, you know, because I'm already on this project and that project and I like the idea. And there's stuff that I create in the studio that nobody even knows of that it's shifting gears, you know, like I've been doing a lot of like cello work and violin work and trying to get more like orchestral stuff like that just to kind of just keep it fresh and you know nobody's even heard it, you know. And there's
Yeah.
times I even delete a lot of the stuff I do just because I'm just over it, but the process of doing it was where it's at, you know. It's
Mhm.
just good feeling working on a Tuesday night until 1 a.m. and then but it never sees the light of day, you
Yeah.
know.
What does that do for you? Like, what is shifting gears completely from, a Planet B recording session into, you know, cello work, for instance? What does that do for you? How does that translate into kind of keeping you going?
I really haven't thought of that. It's just, I mean, I'm here all day, all night. Um, but it's just, I think it's like a reset button to
Mhm.
go and shift gears to just something, even if it's just for a few hours. You know, I can just, you know, go from Planet B, let it rest for the night, and then go and like fuck around with the cello. Or, you know, I've been to get diving into a lot of like vintage flute sounds and stuff like that. And it's just like, it's just shift gears and it's more about like discovering new stuff. And
Right.
to me, like the process means so much more.
Mhm.
Every song that even like with with the Satanic Planet and Planet B, every song on that album, to me, I remember where I was at. I can remember how I discovered that sound. I remember who I was with. And I remember like the recording process with the drummers or like with Justin. So to me, it's very personal in its sense of like, of the process of making the music,
Mhm.
rather than the outcome of it. The
Yeah.
outcome of it isn't for me, it's for you. It's for
Right.
the listener, so once it takes physical form, I lose connection with it,
Hmm.
other than playing live shows, obviously. But it's just, we're just trying to recreate it, doing it live. But
Yeah. Yeah, that
so
makes sense.
move on, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. So when you're doing those, when you hit those reset buttons, and you're, screwing around in the studio by yourself, when do you take it from I'm working on this alone, this might never see the light of day, to I think there's something here, I need to bring in someone else to work on this with me?
I guess if I know, if I get that feeling like, oh, hey, like even going back to, or I know how to apply it, like the new Satanic Planet record has a lot of more string arrangements and stuff like that, to where it's just, I'll know how to apply it to a certain project, or if it does see a light of day, where I have stuff loaded up that I've worked on, to where it's like, oh yeah, I want to bring in like such and such, or like I might even not know them yet, but I'm like, this has a particular sound that I think this, like a tenor vocalist would accompany this a lot better, but I haven't found them yet. So I
Hmm.
have a file um, in my hard drives, a folder called use, and
Hmm.
those are the things that I'm like, I'll use in the future, for something. So, but in the process of making it, I really don't see working with anybody until I go back and like kind of listen to it.
Yeah, that makes sense. What about just the overarching kind of idea of creativity? And I mean, reset buttons and refresh buttons are great, but do you ever find yourself at a point where you're just at a loss? Like you don't know what to create. You don't have, what's your process for sort of like walking yourself through a creative slump, or what do you do when you find one yourself in one? How do you push through?
I just give it a little rest. I pick up, like I do a lot of, I'll do more reading or more running, and it just don't force it, because I think if you force it, like I don't try to force myself out of like writer's block,
Hmm.
so it's just give yourself a little break, and you'll find yourself back. I honestly, when I know I talked to Justin about this, when we finished the last uh that last Planet B album, I honestly felt like I could never work on another Planet B album again. I thought like like all of the sound and everything I brought to the table was exhausted itself, and I was just like, I don't think we can do another album. But I gave it a little break, and I'm like more than halfway working on a new album for Justin to write to, so just give it rest,
Yeah.
just you know
That's that brings up a really interesting point about who you surround yourself with and how you can kind of get energy or inspiration from other people. Knowing Justin's sort of prolific background and just the sheer amount of projects he's been a part of, um, how how are you ensuring you're sort of surrounding yourself with the right people that are going to fill you with inspiration, with motivation to keep going, versus those that maybe suck the energy out of you?
I don't hang out. I keep that time limited. You
Hmm.
Like I have my bar friends, and then I have my studio friends,
Okay.
and especially like with working with Justin, and I know that even just us hanging out, um, the wheels are going to keep moving, or like when I work with like Carlos Paez and DJ Unite with Sonido, like when we're here, we're going to be working. It's about, if we're in the studio, it's about the studio.
Hmm.
as opposed to like the fucking vampires. Those I just leave at the bar because when I'm done drinking with them, I can say bye, and not have to. Uh, I don't have to do. I don't even think about being creative with them.
Hmm.
Just tell a couple of fucking dick jokes and laugh and drink and depart.
Yeah. It's almost, I mean, it seems like kind of refreshing to have that duality though, where you don't have to be on or be a certain thing to all people at all times. You kind of just have that, I can be on here, I can be off here, but I think it's balancing that. That's such an important thing to recognize and be aware of.
And it's good too. Like, don't. I'm not trying to shit on like the bar friends because it is very refreshing um, to get away from the music and not have to talk about music or not have to think about music. And it's the way to just kind of uh, like exhale and just it's refreshing. But I do see certain things in those people where I'm like, I would never bring you into the studio.
So, as runners, I think we do a ton of training for whatever race we're going for, be it a 5K to ultra marathons. For you, what's your like training look like? How do you get yourself ready for performances? How do you recover? Like what's going through your head for that?
You mean running wise or performance?
So I'm trying to equate the like the physical act of running to what sort of musicians put themselves through on stage. I think that they're both of them are a stamina play, right? Like,
I Yeah, they're both very mental,
hmm.
because to me, people when they're like, damn, how like you run that much, and I'm like, to me, I think like 90% of running is mental. The performance of like performing live music is the same way too, but there's a little more pressure in terms of like because you got to promote your own show. You have to rehearse, and rehearsing takes relying on others. And then if somebody's late for this, and then you got to get all the equipment, pack it in, and there's so much more preparation to training for a show than training for a run. Because to me, you just put your fucking shoes on and go, but the performance of it, of doing live music, I think there's a lot more preparation and I think a lot more training in that, and you have to have it in you.
What's the I mean, in your opinion, there's no right or wrong answer here, but what is the importance of sort of just being physically fit?
It's just the feeling. It feels great. Obviously from the beginning it was like a health issue or like a health, not like I was fighting for my life, but it was like, hey, it's time to like, you're not 20 anymore. And
Mhm.
I'm 46, and I feel better at 46 than I did when I was 20. And just the purpose of it, and once you feel it, once you feel the results of it, it's to me it's an addiction. And it's like, trust me, the longer the run, I have so much energy and I feel so great throughout the whole day. And it's just very like, it's like a positive um, connection to me and my body and my mind, the way it just all kind of connects. So it is, but like being physically active is very important. And it's also, you see it like when you're not, um, when I wasn't, um, when I didn't run at all, I was a very negative person and just hated everything and shitted on everything. I just think it's important, but people don't get it until they get there.
Yeah. Until they get there, meaning they start doing something solely for themselves and feel better about it.
Yeah, or when they get there, they'll know. A lot of people are
I
like,
see.
"Oh, I need to." It's like all the January fucking gym
Mhm.
people, and they don't see results by February. They're out, and that it's like being physically fit. It's not a diet; it's a lifestyle. I think so. When people get it, they get it, and it's like it's just this. it's like this, like I said, it's a way of life. Yeah, yeah, just stick with it. I remember when I got there, it was the best feeling, but
Yeah.
it was struggle, 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 and then like holy shit, like I can just my lungs just opened up and like everything, and I was like, it was like that first time I experienced the runner's high.
Hmm.
You know?
When did that happen?
It was probably about maybe like 8, 9 months into running.
Okay.
Um, Luckily with me I was able to I struggled and then I was able to break through, so I went from like it took me longer to run around the block to get to 30 minutes than to get to 30 minutes to an hour, you
Hmm.
know, like it's like the time from I started doing 30-minute runs to 60-minute runs was so much shorter than from getting to that 30 minutes. So after I hit that 30-minute mark, I was like every week it was like 35 minutes, and then the next week was 40 and then 45, you know. So
Yeah.
but yeah, it happened within the year, like 8, 9 months into starting to run.
But I think that's really important, and it's good for people to remember too, or if they're getting started for the first time on something like this, that it's all about perseverance and continuing on and just sticking with something. So, I mean, what advice would you have for people that are either starting out, running, or probably even like making music, starting a band, um, or anyone that's sort of finding their energy fleeting, because there's a lot of, the world can shit on you in a whole bunch of ways. So,
Yeah, I think you just go with it. You know, I mean, it's hard for me to give musical advice to somebody because I don't know where they're at mentally. If
mhm.
they're new, I would just say do new things, try new things. For the people kind of just stuck in that rut, and the same thing is like that quote, like, you know, if you're going through hell, keep going,
Mhm.
you know, and just kind of just go, and then you'll know if it's not. I mean, the idea of like physical activity not being for you is to me I it's absurd, but you'll know if the music thing isn't for you. You'll know, you
Yeah.
know, just be a bedroom guitarist.
I want to kind of wrap us up a little bit on the idea of I mean, we touched on it a little bit throughout this, but the idea of like unpredictability and how to, we if we build ourselves up into fit people or happy people or whatever that looks like, mentally fit, physically fit, emotionally fit, whatever. I believe that we are better equipped to handle sort of the curveballs that come at us in life, right? Like we're just better people for ourselves. That way we can be better people for other people. When life throws you something like that, like an unpredictability or unpredictable change, um, what have you found to be sort of your way to work through that? Something negative comes your way or something insanely positive. What's
I think just time, you know, it's just you know, if you're dealing with something, just you know, one is just like give it time. I'm very not like if obviously if something negative comes, you're gonna react to it, and you're gonna want to react to it very quick. And I think that you should just maybe like distance yourself from it and like process it, and then know like, hey, this is going to be a part of you, or like you're going to have to deal with it, you know. If it's something that is uncontrollable, if you can control it, then you could remove yourself from the equation. But if
Mhm.
it's something where you can't, then like you're stuck in it, you know, and just keep going, you know. And I think like um the more and more you like attach yourself to something and issue a problem, then the more and more you're going to want to kind of like just react. So maybe just kind of just see it for what it is, and then like it's like choose wisely on how you want to react and deal with it. And then it's like goes back to running, and it's like a lot of times with if I have an issue or problem and it doesn't seek immediate reaction, you know, then I process it. You know, you like during the run, you just kind of process it to where you're like, oh, you know, or if I did react negative to something, it's like, oh, I could have handled this better. Just stick to it. I mean, it's going to be a part of you. There's nothing you can do. So it's just like, choose how you react to it wisely.
That's great advice. Okay, what's next for you? What do you want to let our community know about? What should we keep an eye out for from you?
We're working on every project, actually. New Satanic Planet. We're about 4 or 5 songs in the new Sonido album. And then I'm currently working on new instrumentals for the new Planet B. Anybody out there listening hasn't seen it, I did the score for that film, that documentary film, Skate Face, which is all of the history of skateboard graphics.
Oh, sweet.
So,
Luke, I can't thank you enough. This was really great. I was really honored to walk through some of this process stuff with you and get to know you and everything about you a little bit better. And I hope everyone out there is going to take that away too. So,
thanks for having me.
Of course, yeah. All right.
I thought about doing this whole podcast while it was running. I was like, oh, it's gonna shake, and I probably fucking trip like 20, 30 times.
Yeah. I mean, I would have, we could do that next time. Maybe we'll do a follow-up or something. It's not okay. Well, thank you again. It was really nice chatting with you today.
Thanks.
All right. Thank you.